Okay, so we're up to pasuk test. Tov Hashem l'kol v'rachamav l'kol ma'asav. So the interesting thing is that, of course, one of the names of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Tov. That's what, obviously, it's not a name which is one of the Shem Shem and Chokim, one of the names which can't be erased, but it is a name which we give to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So there is a phrase in Birchos Kriya Shema, Tov Yotzar Kavod Lishmo. And there are two ways of reading it. Tov Yotzar means he created good, give honor to his name. And the other one is Tov Yotzar, the good one created Kavod Lishmo. Honor should be to his name. So there's so many places like that in davening where it could have two meanings, both meanings which could be legitimate meanings. And the Tov can either describe in that pasuk what Hashem created or Hashem himself. So here it's not used as a name, obviously, but it is a relationship. And this relationship is the same relationship which we mentioned, Shmones, right? Hatov Shimcha L'chana Elodos, right? Again, there too, it could mean Hatov Shimcha, your name is the good one, or it could mean your name is good, right? And both of them are true, and it doesn't, either kavanah works. So here Tov Hashem means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is good. So it's not saying, you're clearly, we're not using it as a name, but rather as a description, but it really doesn't matter. I think I might have told you in benching in the first bracha, we say Babur Shmo HaGadol, right? It doesn't really say what the great name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is, right? It says, Babur Shmo HaGadol. You can put the period there after Babur Shmo HaGadol. Or you could have in which case the Shmo Gadol is the Kihu Kel Tov. So I again, either way works. You put the period after Babur Shmo Gadol or before Babur Shmo Gadol. But Shmo HaGadol generally understand to mean the word Gadol means something which is expansive. Something which represents chesed. So when you call Kodesh Baruch Hu Gadol, we're referring to Kodesh Baruch Hu's chesed. So therefore, Babur Shmo Gadol is also the name of Kodesh Baruch Hu, which is to be mative, to do chesed. So here we say, Tov Hashem L'chol Rachmo Kol Masav. Obviously, the idea is very simple. Hashem is good to everything, right? To everyone, and He has rachamim on all His creatures. So the question is, again, according to the Malvin's approach, which is the one we're taking, why is it not redundant? What is the end of the pasuk adding to the beginning of the pasuk that the beginning of the pasuk doesn't tell us? So the Malvin says, Tov Hashem L'kol, Hashem ain't a kibosar v'dam. Hashem is not a human being, shu tov l'avadav, who's good to his slaves, and is jealous and takes revenge, the sonay, and detests the mordim, both those who rebel against him. Hashem tov l'kol after Hashem. Hashem's good for everybody, even to Hashem. Where HaKadosh Baruch Hu keeps everybody alive, every moment. So therefore, He's doing tov even for the Rishonim. He's lakol, whether they're, so to speak, on his side or not on his side. Not like a boss of Adam, who's usually only good to the people who are on his side. And obviously, that still comes back to the previous passage, Hashem's erech hapayim, right? Hashem is good to everybody because He's erech hapayim. He's waiting. Hopefully, at some point, they'll do tshuva. So Hashem is tov to Rishonim because He's erech hapayim. He's waiting, and not like a human being who's only good to the people He likes. And that's what he says. Hashem doesn't want to destroy his creatures. So He has all sorts of strategies to get people to come back and not be cast away and cast aside. And that's those rachamim, He's told all the time. That's an underlying goodness that He sustains everything. There's also a rachamim, which is a conscious rachamim, to try and get people to do the tshuva, which is necessary or whatever is important for them in order to fix themselves. So the tov is an underlying goodness, and the rachmav is an active attempt to get people to do tshuva, like we see by in the Elah, because Hashem says, "Kiluach bos most hameis." Hashem doesn't want people to die. He wants them to do tshuva. So of course, if Hashem is told to everybody and everything, so then all of his maisim should give thanks to him. You know, we have this brisa of Perek Shira, which is all the songs which the various different creatures sing to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, whatever that means. But it means that everything exists in because Hashem created, and therefore Yoducha, they acknowledge HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not just human beings, but the entire Bria. Chasidecha Yibarchucha. The Chasidim is a higher madrega. A Chasid gives a bracha to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't just acknowledge Hashem. Everybody can acknowledge Hashem and not feel a connection that they want to be mevarechet. A Chasid who's living in Mishras Adina goes beyond the letter of the law, beyond the simple baseline. He's mevarech Hashem. Let's see the Malbim. He did everything he did with the ultimate good, vashlemus and perfection, and he pays attention to them, to keep them alive, to fix them. The Ein Rabim Tzil says nothing bad in creation. Hashem didn't create anything bad. Those people do things with chasidus, but they go beyond the letter of law of everything. What does it mean to be Varech Hashem? To bring more bracha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Rava Tutuv, and they're going to bring great goodness. Shezeh gather habrachas Baruch Hashem. As we know, when we hear bracha Hashem, what we mean is that Hashem should bestow more flow upon us. So the Chasidim bring down that bracha. You know, Chazal say, Kol ha'om kulo nizon b'shul chanina b'ni. The chanina b'ni dailo kol kav chuvim erev Shabbos le'erev Shabbos. The entire world is gets sustained. It's not literal because other great tzaddikim. The entire world gets sustained because of Rechina ben Doisa. Because Doisa himself only needed is a measure of carobs from one Shabbos to the next Shabbos. So the Hasidim bring down the bracha. Sometimes if the world is not worthy on its own, it gets the bracha because there are these Hasidim who bring down the bracha to it in its totality. Okay, so now who's speaking here? Right, Yomeru, Yidaberu. Obviously, the Hasidim are speaking, right? That's what it says. The Malbim Kva Machus Yomeru HaChasidim Eila Yomuta Mi Kva Machusa. The Hasidim always going to tell over the cover of your Malchus. Shusipur Amasav HaKvuim. It's telling how Kodesh Baruch Hu does regularly and constantly deeds based on the natural conduct of the world, which he founded way back in the beginning. That's the cover of his malchus. Right? So it's like you say, right? The malchus of Hashem, that's what he say that silently because what happened to my screen here? Malchus of Hashem is the way he's regularly king over us, not when he does special nisim. I just realized this week. I never realized before when I'm doing the Bein B'chai at the beginning of Parshas Vayera. To the Avos in the Chumash itself, there are no nisim gulim. There are no revealed miracles. The Malachim appear; they appear as human beings, right? There is no such thing as a Nes Goli in the Torah until the first one is in Parsha Shmos. Anybody know what the first Nes Goli in Torah was? I only realized it last night, 2 nights ago. So I'm not expecting you to necessarily know, but I'll give you a hint. The first Nes Nigla in the Torah is in Parsha Shmos. Anybody? Okay, so the first Nes Nigla is the sneh, is the burning bush. It's a revealed miracle in that Moshe Rabbeinu saw the bush had a fire and wasn't getting burnt up. Moshe Rabbeinu was the first person in history to experience a Nes Nigla, and he continued, and he then was sent by HaKadosh Baruch Hu to demonstrate Nisim Guyim to the rest of the world. Now, according to Midrashim, there are a lot of Nisim Guyim, which happened with Avraham Avinu in the furnace and other things. But the Chumash itself is teaching us a lesson that the level of Nes Nigla is the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. And the Avos did not see Nisim Guyim. They talked to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, of course. HaKadosh Baruch Hu talked to them, but real miracles, they didn't see. And that means the Avos were on the level of Kavod Malchus. They were on the level of the honor of Hashem's ongoing sovereignty, kingship over the world. As he says, Ma'isa v'kli k'vi anagosa tivi shi'asad me'reishus kedumim. V'hushu k'vo malchusa. Shebezeh yanhi k'melech hanoeg al pi chuchei malchusa. This respect is like a king who conducts himself according to the laws of his governance. But of course, we also know about the Gvuras of Hashem, which go beyond nature. As again, I said, first one being the stand, then the Makos, of course, and the other one subsequent to that. So that is and he disrupts nature. Those are Gvuras V'zos, Yidaberu B'orech. So the Malbim learns it, they're going to speak about it at length. And that's things you're medaber about are things to speak about at great length. So Yudaberu means they're going to speak at length about the miracles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I would say differently. I would say that the pshat is that by the things which are the malchus of Hashem, it's easy to talk about. We said last week that Yomeru is a lashon of something which is spoken softly. He was a lashon which is tough, strong. So I think that one could say that Yomeru means this is something which is very easy to say because we see it every day. Yudaberu, that's something which is tough to speak about because we don't experience it. We don't experience it at all. We're telling over things which happened in the past to our others, but we don't experience it at all. Okay, Yud Beis, lo dia livnei adam gvurosov. So why the Hasidim speaking and spending all this time speaking about the gvuros of Hashem? They want to tell other people about the gvuros of Hashem. Uchvod adar machuso, and also uchvod adar machus. Now the order is reversed, right? The Hasidim first speak about the gvod machus, and then they speak about the gvura. That's among themselves, right? Because for them, really the covered machus is equal. The Siyakash Baruch Hu, the day-to-day bria, that's really the equal. The gvuros are what give a mechazik aramur. But when you have to speak to the other people, so first you have to tell them about the gvuros of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? That Hashem disrupts nature. And only then can you say, and now since we see Hashem as disrupting nature, we can also see Hashem in nature itself. But of course, the main thing is to see Hashem in nature, not just to see him in the gvuros. But again, when you're modia to others, the Chasim tell others, they start with the gvuros and then they go on to Kvod Adar Malchusa. That's the Mavim Modia Shul Kvod Malchus Chayomeru Modia Bnei Adam Kvod Malchuso Kvod Malchuso. So what he's learning it is that in pasuk Yud Aleph we have Kvod Malchus Chayomeru that corresponds to its pasuk Kvod Adar Malchuso, obviously. And the last pasuk was the beginning of this pasuk. So Mashi Amru Kvod Malchuso. That was going to say the Kvod Malchus. Eina mitzad sheyesh b'choles yad adam v'saper geburas Hashem u'tilasa. That which they say the Kvod Malchus is not because a person can actually tell over the Gebura of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's very difficult to tell. Me and Malach Geburas Hashem, who can really grasp the Gebura of Hashem? We can't really grasp it all in its true sense. We can tell over the miracles, but I don't appreciate the depth of them. We don't know how they're done. We don't know what goes on within the miracle. Obviously, there's some sort of shefa which comes down to the world, which every miracle which occurs. Let's say he says, this they're going to do to tell the people over his gurus. So they won't tell you for the gurus as they are in their essence and their true character, because that's divinity, which is beyond our capacity to perceive. They're going to tell over what people can understand. Like Lodia Livnei Adam means bring it down to their level. It's like the little measure says instead of the measure says. Right? So the that people can at least understand. There's this concept. Hashem goes against nature. How? Why? The idea that's not possible. But the profundity of the idea. But the concept that we can say. We can also talk about the Kvod Hadar Malchus, Marechas Teva She'arach, in the ray of Teva, which he set up. Shem Chelach Gadol She'yimloch Aleim, which is his great army which he rules over. Brias Olam, and there is this aspect of Brias Olam Ayah Kadeshi Korim Shem Melech Kanoida. This is a line which is a little bit bothersome. I want to spend a little bit of time on it. The Ramchal says there are 3 levels of understanding why Kosh Baruch created the world. The lowest level is to understand that Kosh Baruch created the world in order to manifest his names, meaning his koach and his various different koachos, in a tangible way, right? And that's what he means. Kadeshi Korei Melech. Kosh Baruch created the world. Kola Nivra Lichvodi Brasib. I created for my comment. The second level says from Ramchal to understand Kosh Baruch created the world to be mated. In other words, he wanted somebody to whom to be mated, so therefore he created the world to give him an object to be mated. The third level says from Ramchal, understanding why Kosh Baruch created the world, is because he wanted to bring about this chiddush that even though Gashmis and Ruchnis seem to be polar opposites, in fact, Gashmis and Ruchnis can be bonded together and work together. So that's and that they're not separate, they're united. Just like the Neshama and the Guf, they seem to be polar opposites, but they work together, Ruchni and Gashmi. So Ramchal says, somebody just understands level 1, doesn't understand anything. That's an understanding, but it's not a true understanding. Somebody which is level 2, that's a way of understanding why Kosh Baruch created the world in a much more accurate, fast manner. Because Kosh Baruch doesn't need cover. The covenant of Hashem is for him to be mated. The system is such that he created one in which we're Mechabed Hashem, and that gives us a special understanding of what we're supposed to do. And then Hashem is mated to us because we become good ourselves. And the third level of understanding is the person reaches that level, that's the highest level, and it includes the first 2 levels. In other words, it's not separate, it includes them. In other words, if the Gashmis and Ruchnis are can be bonded together and work in harmony, that's because Hashem created a world which reflects his Malchus, and also because Hashem created a world to be mated. So therefore, Gashmis and Ruchnis work together, and they're not separate, they're one thing. So, but as Mom says here, the most basic level of understanding Priya, which is not the level one should stay at, is the level of the Kadeshi and Melech. That Kvod Malchuso. But Hashem, of course, in his essence, you cannot understand him, whatever you say about him. Not even in how he connects to according to nature. There's any Malchuso, which is called Malchuso. Why is that? Because Malchus Kolamin. Your Malchus is a Malchus which is all the worlds and all eternity. And who can grasp? You can grasp maybe a king of England, but to grasp the idea of the Malchus Kol Olamim, that's beyond our capacity. So we have that means we tell people as much as we can grasp, but can't. Ultimately, it's huge. Malchus the whole door, right? It's all worlds and for all eternity. So let's see the you're king over many, many worlds. I don't know if you're familiar with the Beckhoff interpretation of the last Mishnah in Shas. The last Mishnah in Shas says, Kosh Baruch is going to give each and every tzaddik 310 worlds. So there are many different interpretations of that, which are allegorical. He said it's the 310, Gematria is Yesh, and Yesh means existence, and the 310 worlds represent the eternal existence of Olam Haba. The Tiferes Yisrael says there are 620 mitzvahs, 630 Daraisa and 7 Rabbanon, and half of that is 310. And we do our half, and then Kosh Baruch Hu gives us his half, 310 versus 310, right? We do 310, he gives us 310. But I think it's the Mishnah is best understood Kipshuta. There are so many planets out there which seem to have no apparent purpose, billions and maybe trillions of them. But each and every tzaddik gets 310 worlds. That is they're there for the tzaddikim as their reward for having functioned as a Tzelem Elohim in this world, to be able to have olamos of their own, each one 310, after when in Olam Haba. So there is, so the olamos say mitzvah, alumni mitzvah. There, yes.
Do you know if there's any like symbolization for the number 310?
No, it's yesh, existence.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right. And the pasuk which is learned is Lachilo Avai Yesh. Give those who love me yesh, which means true existence, eternal existence.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So he says that all of them you imprint, you founded or imprinted your malchus and their own nature. Each world has its own nature. Mars has its own nature, Venus has its own nature, Jupiter has its own nature, and all the worlds have their own nature, and they all have their own natures. We simply can't perceive all of them. Therefore, too many. And certainly we can't understand his conduct according to the wonders which disrupt nature. It's interesting concept the Malbim is suggesting. Malchus is Hashem's, so to speak, normal control of the world in Teva, or the worlds in Teva. Memshala is the control of the world which is above and beyond. So he says, Shamoshel b'chazka should be Mashenkin, I think there's a word missing there. Hamelech b'askamas u'b'chiras. A moshel is a ruler who rules without the people's consent. The dictator. Melech has to be chosen, like Shaul is chosen, like David is chosen. So it's with the agreement of the people. So the famous gra on the pasuk, Malchusko, which pasuk? Ki Hashem haMelucha uMoshe Bagoyim. Hashem has the Melucha and he's Moshe Bagoyim. What does the pasuk mean? So he says, by Am Yisrael, Hashem is a melech, because we accept him upon us. Hashem HaMelucha is for Am Yisrael. Moshe Bagoyim, even nations which don't accept him, he rules over them anyway, as a Moshe. So he's a melech by us because we accept him. He's a Moshe by the nations of the world who don't accept him. So here too, it's a similar idea. Malchus kolamim. That is the nature, which is something which is kind of like a ongoing relationship between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which is the normal relationship, like a king who has been accepted by his people. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu undermines nature and disrupts it, then that's called Memshola, because he's ruling over the world in a way which does not take into account what his, so to speak, subjects are doing or are connecting to them in a relationship way. No, he's overriding everything. So here the Mom says a very interesting thing. I don't know if I buy this so much. You bear in mind, it doesn't say in this pasuk anything about the Gevuras Hashem. The Malbim is assuming it's as if it says Gevuras Hashem. And it's saying that the Malchus Kamim is Teva. And that's what goes out all the time in all places. In every generation, there are specific Gevuros which occur in that generation, which are not constant. They're unique and special. So I don't know. Again, I'm not sure every door has Nisim Guyim. I don't know if that. I'm not sure if I could accept the Malbim on that. What I would say is that yes, the Malchus Hashem is in every generation, right? That As Chol means all the worlds, right? But Memshalto, the how it can be revealed is different from Chol Dor Vador. And perhaps it's Malbi means not Gvuras Hashem, but rather how Hashem rules everything. In other words, the models of Hashem, that Hashem is the Melech that is always exists, whether we see it or not. But the Memshol of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we see Hashem, how he rules over the world, how he conducts over the world, that in each generation is different. Different generations see it different ways. Okay, be that as it may, it's going to Dalit. So Mech Hashem L'chol Noflim is okay for Chol Klupim. So the Malbim says, so Mech, so Mech, so God is so great. He's Malchus, Memshola. But a place where you see his greatness, you see his humility. Ki hashgachaso tispashet al hashpalim. This hashgacha pertains even to the lowest of the low, those who fall. Shpalim, those who are low, and oppressed. He sustains all those who fall. Mimalosam, from their level. It could be that they fall from the level by the system of nature, and by the mazel, which is a bad one. In other words, as we mentioned, mazel means a flow from Shemayim, and it could be that some of us, it's clear, some of us were born with better mazel in certain areas, and other people are better mazel in other areas, right? Some people are very handsome. Some people are very smart. Some people are very athletic. Some people are tall. Some people are short. So everybody has different mazel, and some people's mazels, at least in certain areas, is a challenge. It's a roa. It doesn't seem good. So Kadosh Baruch Hu somech them as well. Somech osam bal yiplu. He supports them that they shouldn't fall. And he'll even change the mazel to good. Now again, there's certain things which are static, which because we're not nisim gluim, they don't change, right? But the things that there is mazel which can be changed, and even if a person's mazel remains bad, HaKadosh Baruch Hu helps him in that situation to see the good in the situation, why it's good for him, to say gamzu l'toiv. Zokei v'chol klufim. What's that? It seems to be the same thing. No klufim. So normally people will fall. Klufim are people who are bent over. She'elu shein anavim v'klufim es atzmam. So he said, Mom says interesting idea. He says, Snowflame, they've fallen. They didn't push themselves over, they fell. A kafuf is somebody who deliberately bows over. He bends himself. So it's okay if Hashem Kafuf means if a person is humble, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu will straighten him up. So a person who's no-fail, that was through mazel, right? There's no guarantee he's going to be able to change it. Hashem will support it, but maybe he's going to change it. It's a famous case with Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. It was very poor, and he asked Kodesh Baruch Hu, can't you make it rich? And Hashem said, you want me to start the whole world from scratch? Maybe you'll be rich next time. That's what says it's going to be a mazel. Even though I start the world from scratch again, next time you'll also be poor, because that's what you need for your nisayon in this world. So that Kodesh Baruch Hu might change your mazel, but he might just help you out where you find yourself, because maybe it's good, Rahman al-Islam, for you to be poor, right? Maybe it's very bad for you to be rich. But so those are the people, says the Mabim, who bend themselves up. And if a person is humble, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lifts him up. So there's a story that Chassid comes to Rebbe and says, Rebbe, it says, anybody runs from the covered pursues it. My whole life I've been barach min covered, but the covered's not coming after me. Where is it? So the Rebbe says, when they said kol barach min covered, they didn't mean somebody who's always looking over his shoulder to see if covered is following it. That person doesn't get the covered in the end. So a person who is co-faith himself because he wants to show himself humble, obviously there is for him, he doesn't get the covenant in the end. But a person who is kofev himself because of true anava, then yiskovo some shlema. They'll be uplifted. Somebody you're not saying. He's going to uplift them and make them high. Now, it's not necessarily in this world. Obviously, this world has no guarantees. But a person who makes himself humble, which mainly means that he submits himself to Ratzon Hashem and tries to fill Ratzon Hashem, that is ultimately the person who's going to be uplifted in the world to come. Okay, so this really is a prelude, of course, to the next pasuk, which is the most important pasuk. Because Baruch Hashgacha extends not just to keeping the system working, but also to support all of us. All eyes are sent to you. You give them their food at the proper time. At mealtime. There are two ways. Back in Kapitel Kufdaled, Baruch Nafshi, which is actually today's Rosh Chodesh. So Baruch Nafshi is the Kapitel Tehillim which we said Rosh Chodesh. Detain lahem yilkotun. Give it to them, they'll gather. Tiftach yodcha yisbutov. Open your hand, and they'll be satisfied with good. So, shelfami yitain lahem b'tzimtzum v'yilkotun. Belocate means you have to go and gather it up. There's not so much. You have to go and gather, and seek and find. Sometimes that's the case. When you think a small amount, you have to go gather. Sometimes he opens his hand wide. You tell them berevach, she's been told, right? And he'll give them with revach and tolmi masbia. So obviously, this is going on the next pasuk, right? Sometimes you just open your hands, the Malbim says, not more. But sometimes you're masbia. That depends on your ratzon, of course. So, with additional satisfaction. V'amar b'tzara rishon. So this is about the first thing. Batono sein lahem es achlam. You give them their food, she understands b'tzimtzum, which whatever they need to eat, no excess, no luxuries. The rak b'ito only at the proper time. The esochel when the food is necessary. No silok piatzorch lambu asachai. Here's what is necessary according to what is necessary in order to keep them alive. Not more than that. So that's talking about where the minimum. If a person turns to Hashem to sustain, he gets sustained, right? But there is a higher level, right? Again, and that's level Yilkutu, right? Then there's level of Posech. He's saying actually, I take back what I said before. It's not, they're not, it's this pasuk versus the next pasuk. And that this pasuk is talking about the so to speak, Yilkotun, where you get enough, but not the shefa, not the extraordinary amount. And next pasuk is talking about when it's done, where Kosh Baruch has the ratzon to be marbe and meitiv even more and more and more. And I think we did this pasuk it's on in the Malbim itself. That it's according to the ratzon of Hashem. And the Tzadik Hashem b'chol derachav, Darka and Hagaim b'tzedek, where Kosh Baruch leads the world, right? Where's the righteous? Shagam sheish Tzadik b'rala b'rasha tovlo, even though the tzaddikim who have it bad and Rishon who have it good. Because the Tzut Tzadik b'chol derachav is righteous in everything he does. But Kol b'tzedek, everything is just. Rishon and Tzadik al chaytal, he gives tzvah for Tzadik in this world to punish him on light sins. Russia, Kali rewards in Russia for his light mitzvahs. Shomer. So that it says that the comeuppance, the sucker means the sucker and the owner, right? That the primary schar and owner should be for olam haba. The chassid chol ma'asav, kol ma she'asab rabba olamo, asami tzadach chesed. Okay, so he's righteous. Everything is midas hadin is always done. It can go beyond midas hadin. You go livni mishras hadin, but it's never less than midas hadin. Hashem never gives onesh just for the purpose of giving onesh. Any onesh is a tikkun. It's something which is better for the world that's done. And also, also, there's chesed in everything. It's not just tzedakah. Even if somebody's suffering, that suffering is good. Because the world is chesed. Everybody is created with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's chesed, and Hashem conducts himself with chesed towards everybody. And then Karov Hashem L'chol Karov Asher K'u B'emes, as we said, Karov maybe Orei Hashgacha. There's another Rai of Hashgacha. Mash Karov, he's close to everybody, close on him. The tefillah avad, all of the tefillah. You don't even need karbonos, right? People, the time based on Mikdash, people felt that karbonos can't reach the Kodesh Baruch Hu. Kodesh Baruch Hu said, I don't need your karbonos. I just need you. So there it says, anybody calls the Kodesh Baruch Hu tefillah levad in kubemes, if it's with emes, below lev, not with a split heart, partly Shem Shemayim, partly not Shem Shemayim. List everybody. There are levels, be'echus, in the quality of los bakosha. Some are fulfilling their requests. Then ovdim ba'avel ovdim mira. Right? There's differences for people who are Euro, which is pasuk best. That's one level, and the next is pasuk chav. Shomer Hashem is called above as korashim yashmid. So he said, sorry, I said Hashem Yishma, was Yoshiyim, it's tomorrow. Achar Shishav Yeshua. Yiraim, they get answered, but they have to daven first. Avo Shomer Hashem is called above. But the Oavim, they get preserved ahead of time. It's like we say at the end of the first Baruch Shmoneh, Melech, Ozer, Umoshia, Umogen. For some people, he's a king for everybody. Some people he helps. Some people he even saves. But some people, the highest level, he shields them ahead of time, that they shouldn't get into problems. It's a progression. Ozer is the lowest level of assistance. Moshiach is higher, and Mogen is the highest because it protects. And so he says, "I'm Shem's call above." It's only now Shomer Tamid. He wants them always. Baltav Olim Torah. That no bad thing should happen to them. They don't have to then cry out to Kosh Baruch Hu about themselves. They might have to cry out about other people, right? Even a tzaddik who doesn't have to call for himself has to call for other people, but for themselves, since it's only Hashem, Hashem gives ahead of time, anticipates and provides. Also, is another thing. Those who were Shav Hashem Adirim, it's Aku many tsar, if they shout out of their travails about Rishonim will come to bad things, then he only saves them. But he won't necessarily destroy and take revenge on them. But those who love serve God out of love, he's going to destroy those Rishonim, not just push them away, destroy them. The level of connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's level of Hashgacha. So by the Yerev, Yoshiyeh, by or above, not only is going to be Yoshiyeh them, but they'll see the Kiddush Hashem of the destruction of the enemies. Okay, we are up to the last pasuk, but I don't think we'll have less than a minute left, so we'll have to finish up next week. I think after that we'll go on to Yishtabach, and then on to Birchas Kriyashma. Okay, so I'll sign off for tonight. Thank you very much for coming. See you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.